Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day 11 of our Contigo 30-day wellness challenge, where we're challenging you to learn more about mental health and implement some of these wellness strategies that have been presented. We're also really excited to highlight the work that our amazing Hispanic and Latinx therapists are doing out in their communities. So we are glad you're here with us today. And today we are excited to have Amalia Miralrio, she, her, is a clinical therapist located in Detroit, Michigan. She specializes in working with individuals processing the end of the romantic relationship or sexual relationship and moving forward in an authentic connection and self-acceptance. Her background is in social work and human sexuality, and we are super excited. Today, she's going to chat with us a little more about what this means. Amalia, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, perfect. So I will go over to a little presentation I've shared. Okay, so today I'm just going to talk a little bit about, on a very basic level, if you're going through a breakup, you recently ended a sexual relationship, a romantic relationship, even if it was just like talking to someone or you were married, what are some of the things that might help you, immediately in that process move forward? And we're going to talk, in very general terms. This, of course, is not a substitute for therapy, but it might help give you a little bit of an idea of what you could expect from therapy. So if you've been really struggling with this and you've been thinking about how to maybe get more support, it can be really useful sometimes to know what to expect and to not feel like therapy is this really mysterious, complex thing. It is complex, but I want to kind of demystify for you what you might expect, at least if the way that I approach this with my clients in supporting someone through this process. Okay, so as Deanna said, thanks so much for the introduction. My name is Amalia, and I'm licensed in both Michigan and Pennsylvania, and I work virtually with clients in both states. Okay, so first things first is to regulate your nervous system. If you can think of movies when someone is going through a breakup, there's always that scene with like the ice cream and the girlfriend's coming over. I mean, this is like a very gender stereotypical, like pop cultural scene with the ice cream, the chips, like the wine, crying, all of that. I'm thinking of like Elle Woods and Legally Blonde, like eating the chocolates in bed and like throwing the chocolates at the TV. And so there are some parts of that though that I think in a therapeutic lens, like even thinking about it in a more serious way, are really useful. So when at the end of a relationship, you want to approach it as keeping in mind that your nervous system and your attachment system have just been super wounded. And it can be really upsetting, even on a physiological level, to part with someone that you are connected with. So some ways of doing that are to journal, get out in nature, spend time with friends and family, eat, nourishing comfort foods. I say intuitive movement because that might mean like some really gentle yoga. It might mean going for a walk, but it also might mean spending some time on the couch. It might mean spending more time in bed. It might mean moving at a slower pace, and that's okay. It's really, you're kind of want to think of yourself in this really like acute phase of just needing things that feel comforting and nourishing. It's probably not a good time to be alone, if at all possible. And I know that especially in 2020, that's really hard. But you want to think about this as the time of kind of putting on that Band-Aid metaphorically and just kind of feeling a basic sense of feeling okay before you move forward. It's common during this time to maybe sort of feel, I don't even like using this word, but to feel like quote unquote crazy for the ways that you can't seem to get it together. Like maybe you can't stop crying, maybe you're having trouble sleeping. And I really want to normalize that is okay, it's normal, and first things first, it's just about taking care of your body. Okay, so the next step is really to practice being honest with yourself and your trusted support system about what you're feeling. This is the phase, it could be the next week, it could be the next month, it could be even the next year. Everyone's timeline is a little bit different, but this is the phase when you might start to want to try to laugh things off. It might be the phase where your friends are maybe feeling angry and protective, and you might be feeling something different. You might have days of also feeling angry. You might have days of feeling like you don't care. But what I would really encourage you to do is to get really honest with yourself about what else you're feeling, what is beneath that. And that might be grief, it might be feeling worthlessness, it might be a lot of worry about your future, about if you will ever find the right partner. And so this is really the time, as you continue to regulate your nervous system and get do those self-care activities, it's also the time to get really honest about what you're feeling, and connecting with your body of how that feeling is sitting in your body, what's happening physiologically, and continue to incorporate those strategies of regulating your nervous system as you feel your feelings. Okay, so this is the part in therapy where things start to get really interesting and really ripe. And this is why I love working with this time in someone's life, is that it's a time when people tend to be feeling the most confused and an incredible amount of pain, but there is an incredible amount of transformation that can come with deeper reflection at this phase of life, that people tend to be very open to change. And so some of these deeper questions, if you're working with a therapist, these are some of the types of questions that you'll be exploring together. If you are more comfortable working through them with friends or on your own or journaling, these are all some of the basic grounding questions that I would certainly be interested in, of asking yourself what's coming up, what feels familiar about what's coming up, how has this relationship that just ended been different or similar to past relationships, and what are the similarities or differences even in your current relationships. So for example, is there something that you were tolerating in this past relationship that just ended that you're kind of looking around and realizing you're also tolerating from some of your friends or family? And is that okay with you? Is that something that you are, wanting to transform? Or is this an opportunity to evaluate the way that you show up in all of your relationships, and what parts of that are useful and in line with your best self, and what parts of that are maybe past narratives, maybe influenced by trauma, that are just continuing without you realizing it. This is the time to clarify what you want and need in relationships, what's gotten in the way in the past. And this is also the part where, it's a good time to explore some of your attachment patterns. And attachment is, a therapeutic word that is really a way of describing how you feel and show up in relationships. So for example, if you realize you have a tendency to feel unworthy in all of your relationships and worry about people leaving you, that might speak to your attachment style. It might speak to your attachment pattern, and it might be actually prohibiting you from having deeper connections. So all of these are the really transformational questions, and the parts where you can have those aha moments that help you move forward in romantic relationships and friendships and your relationships with your family, even in your work relationships, with more clarity of what you want and need. Okay, so we kind of already went over this part about gaining clarity on the future. possibly beginning to date again and continuing to have those aha moments about what kind of life and relationships you want. Okay. And I also like to think of this process as definitely not linear, but um, more of the type of process that you repeat over and over again throughout therapy. So, or throughout your own individual healing process, or, you know, if you're talking to just other parts of your support system, you know, that you want to continue to be um, in tune with what's happening in your body, in tune with when you need a break, when you need a yoga day, when you need an ice cream day, in tune with, you know, when you need a time out to journal. Continue being honest with yourself about what you're really feeling as you're regulating and as you're integrating some of these deeper questions. So it can be a lot to handle. It can be a lot of work, but it can be 100% worth it, like we talked about, to have the kind of intimacy you really want. Okay, so that is a very general overview of some of the ways of moving forward after the end of a relationship. And, you know, like I said, I definitely encourage you to seek support, whether that be from friends, family, loved ones, and don't hesitate to reach out for professional support. So I'm licensed in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and here's some information of where you can find me. All right, thanks so much.
Wow, such good information. And it feels like since COVID, there seem to be more relationship struggles with breakups and dating. So this was a really great topic. Thank you so much for your expertise, Amalia.
Of course, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I'm curious, are you noticing that there are more like relationship type struggles since the pandemic started, or does it feel about the same to you?
I definitely think that people are having a harder time, because they're spending more time together and not, you know, their daily lives and their daily workflows have kind of been disrupted for a lot of people. And then B, just that as stress levels increase, as people are feeling more and more like they're in a crisis, that can really be hard for relationships, but it can also ultimately be useful in clarifying what's not working.
Right. Yeah, that is a great point. Again, I hope that everyone found this information helpful. We will leave Amalia's information if you want to reach out to her and learn more about her work. And thank you for spending a few minutes here with us today.
Of course. Thanks so much.